Yes, welcome back. I did start uploads this flight, and I took this flight because I like to watch the satellite photos in the desert. They're very nice. Some of them looks like another planet. So we are flying up to Tashkent. It's 2 hours, 2 hours left, 1,600 kilometers. So, but let's, I'm not going to sit talk because I'm tired. It's 10 p.m. and only sleep 4 hours last night. And I have done this many days. I like just to watch this satellites photos. Then I like to listen to this PDF. I'll just continue.
The seated image of Galvihara in Polonnaruwa, 12th century, which depicts the Doyana mudra, shows signs of Mahayana influence. Sri Lanka's irrigation system was extensively expanded during the reign of Parakramadhu the Great, 1153-1186. 71. This period is considered as a time when Sri Lanka was at the height of its power. 72. 73. He built 1,470 reservoirs, the highest number by any ruler in Sri Lanka's history. Repaired 165 dams, 3910 canals, 163 major reservoirs, and 2,376 mini reservoirs. 74. His most famous construction is the Parakrama Samudra. 75. The largest irrigation project of medieval Sri Lanka. Parakramadhu's reign is memorable for two major campaigns in the south of India as part of the Pandyan War of Succession, and a punitive strike against the kings of Ramana, Burma, for various perceived insults to Sri Lanka. 76. After his demise, Sri Lanka gradually decayed in power. In 1215, Kalinga, an invader with uncertain origins, identified as the founder of the Jaffna kingdom, invaded and captured the kingdom of Polonnaruwa. He sailed from Kalinga, 74, 690 nautical miles on 100 large ships with a 24,000-strong army. Unlike previous invaders, he looted, ransacked and destroyed everything in the ancient Amurat Harpura and Polonnaruwa kingdoms beyond recovery. 77. His priorities in ruling were to extract as much as possible from the land and overturn as many of the traditions of Rajurata as possible. His reign saw the massive migration of native Sinhalese people to the south and west of Sri Lanka, and into the mountainous interior, in a bid to escape his power. 78. 79. Sri Lanka never really recovered from the impact of Kalinga invasion. King Vijayabahu III, who led the resistance, brought the kingdom to Dubai-Tashkent. The north, in the meanwhile, eventually evolved into the Jaffna kingdom. 78. 79. The Jaffna kingdom never came under the rule of any kingdom of the south except on one occasion, in 1450, following the conquest led by King Parakramabahu VI's adopted son, Prince Sapula. 80. He ruled the north from 1450 to 1467 CE. 81. The next 3 centuries starting from 1215 were marked by kaleidoscopically shifting collections of capitals in south and central Sri Lanka, including Dubai-Tashkent, Lapahua, Gampola, Ragama, Kot, 82, Sitawaka, and finally, Kandy. In 1247, the Malay kingdom of Tambralinga, which was a vassal of the Srivijaya Empire led by their king Chandrabanu, 83, briefly invaded Sri Lanka from insular Southeast Asia. They were then expelled by the South Indian Pandyan dynasty. 84, however. This temporary invasion reinforced the steady flow of the presence of various Austronesian merchant ethnic groups, from Sumatrans, Indonesia, to Lucos, Philippines, into Sri Lanka, which occurred since 200 BC. 85. Chinese Admiral Zheng He and his naval expeditionary force landed at Galle, Sri Lanka in 1409 and got into battle with the Loka King Vira Alaksvera of Gampola. Zheng He captured King Vira Alaksvera and later released him. 86, 87, 88, 89. Zheng He erected the Galle trilingual inscription, a stone tablet at Galle written in 3 languages, Chinese, Tamil, and Persian, to commemorate his visit. 90, 91. The stele was discovered by S.H. Tomlin at Galle in 1911 and is now preserved in the Colombo National Museum. Early modern Sri Lanka. The early modern period of Sri Lanka begins with the arrival of Portuguese soldier and explorer Lourenço de Almeida, the son of Francisco de Almeida, in 1505. 92. In 1517, the Portuguese built a fort at the port city of Colombo and gradually extended their control over the coastal areas. In 1592, after decades of intermittent warfare with the Portuguese, Vimaladurma I moved his kingdom to the inland city of Kandy, a location he thought more secure from attack. 93. In 1619, succumbing to attacks by the Portuguese, the independent existence of the Jaffna kingdom came to an end. 94. During the reign of the Rajasingha II, Dutch explorers arrived on the island. In 1638, the king signed a treaty with the Dutch East India Company to get rid of the Portuguese who ruled most of the coastal areas. 95. The following Dutch-Portuguese war resulted in a Dutch victory, with Colombo falling into Dutch hands by 1656. The Dutch remained in the areas they had captured, thereby violating the treaty they had signed in 1638. The Burgher people, a distinct ethnic group, emerged as a sort of intermingling between the Dutch and native Sri Lankans in this period. 96. A 17th-century engraving of Dutch explorer Joris van Spilbergen meeting with King Vimaladurma in 1602. The Kingdom of Kandy was the last independent monarchy of Sri Lanka. 97. In 1595, Vimaladurma brought the sacred tooth relic, the traditional symbol of royal and religious authority amongst the Sinhalese, to Kandy and built the Temple of the Tooth. 97. In spite of ongoing intermittent warfare with Europeans, the kingdom survived. Later, a crisis of succession emerged in Kandy upon King Viranarendrasina's death in 1739. He was married to a Telugu-speaking Nayakar princess from South India, Madurai, and was childless by her. 97. Eventually, with the support of Paiku Welawitasaran and ignoring the right of Alambewe Bundra, the crown passed to the brother of one of Narendrasina's princesses, overlooking Narendrasina's own son by a Sinhalese concubine. 98. The new king was crowned Sri Vijayarajasingha later that year. Kings of the Nayakar dynasty launched several attacks on Dutch-controlled areas, which proved to be successful. 99. Sri Vikramarajasingha of Kandy, the last ruling native Sri Lankan monarch during the Napoleonic Wars, fearing that French control of the Netherlands might deliver Sri Lanka to the French. Great Britain occupied the coastal areas of Friesland, which they called Ceylon, with little difficulty in 1796. 100. 2 years later, in 1798, Sri Rajadhirajasingha, third of the 4 Nayakar kings of Sri Lanka, died of a fever. Following his death, a nephew of Rajadhirajasingha, 18-year-old Kanasami, was crowned. 101. The young king, now named Sri Vikramarajasingha, faced a British invasion in 1803 but successfully retaliated. The First Kandyan War ended in a stalemate. 101. By then the entire coastal area was under the British East India Company as a result of the Treaty of Amiens. On the 14th of February, 1815, Kandy was occupied by the British in the Second Kandyan War, ending Sri Lanka's independence. 101. Sri Vikramarajah Singha, the last native monarch of Sri Lanka, was exiled to India. 102. The Kandyan Convention formally ceded the entire country to the British Empire. Attempts by Sri Lankan noblemen to undermine British power in 1818 during the Yuva Rebellion were thwarted by Governor Robert Brownrigg. 103. The beginning of the modern period of Sri Lanka is marked by the Colebrook Cameron reforms of 1833. 104. They introduced a utilitarian and liberal political culture to the country based on the rule of law and amalgamated the Kandyan and Maritime provinces as a single unit of government. 104. An executive council and a legislative council were established, later becoming the foundation of our representative legislature. By this time, experiments with coffee plantations were largely successful. 105. Soon, coffee became the primary commodity export of Sri Lanka. Falling coffee prices as a result of the Depression of 1847 stalled economic development and prompted the governor to introduce a series of taxes on firearms, dogs, shops, boats, etc., and to reintroduce a form of Rajakaria, requiring 6 days free labor on roads or payment of a cash equivalent. 105. These harsh measures antagonized the locals, and another rebellion broke out in 1848. 106. A devastating leaf disease, Himalaya vastatrix, struck the coffee plantations in 1869, destroying the entire industry within 15 years. 107. The British quickly found a replacement. Abandoning coffee, they began cultivating tea instead. Tea production in Sri Lanka thrived in the following decades. Large-scale rubber plantations began in the early 20th century. British appointed Kandyan chief headman in 1905. By the end of the 19th century, a new educated social class transcending race and caste arose through British attempts to staff the Ceylon civil service and the legal, educational, engineering, and medical professions with natives. 108. New leaders represented the various ethnic groups of the population in the Ceylon Legislative Council on a communal basis. Buddhist and Hindu revivalism reacted against Christian missionary activities. 109. 110. The first 2 decades in the 20th century are noted by the unique harmony among Sinhalese Tamil political leadership, which has since been lost. 111. The 1906 malaria outbreak in Ceylon actually started in the early 1900s, but the first case was documented in 1906. In 1919, major Sinhalese and Tamil political organizations united to form the Ceylon National Congress, under the leadership of Ponnambalam Aranakalam. 112. Pressing colonial masters for more constitutional reforms. But without massive popular support, and with the governor's encouragement for communal representation by creating a Columbosiate that dangled between Sinhalese and Tamils, the Congress lost momentum towards the mid-1920s. 113. The Dornama reforms of 1931 repudiated the communal representation and introduced universal adult franchise. Franchise stood at 4% before the reforms. This step was strongly criticized by the Tamil political leadership, who realized that they would be reduced to a minority in the newly created State Council of Ceylon, which succeeded the Legislative Council. 114. 115. In 1937, Tamil leader G. Ponnambalam demanded a 50-50 representation, 50% for the Sinhalese and 50% for other ethnic groups, in the State Council. However, this demand was not met by the Solberry reforms of 1944-45. Contemporary Sri Lanka. The formal ceremony marking the start of self-rule, with the opening of First Parliament at Independence Square. The sole very constitution ushered in Dominion status, with independence proclaimed on the 4th of February 1948. 116. D.S. Senanayak became the first Prime Minister of Ceylon. 117. Prominent Tamil leaders including Ponnambalam Mahadeva joined his cabinet. 114. 118. The British Royal Navy remained stationed at Trincomalee until 1956. A countrywide popular demonstration against withdrawal of the rice rations resulted in the resignation of Prime Minister Dudley Senanayak. 119. SWRD Bundaranak was elected Prime Minister in 1956. His three-year rule had a profound impact through his self-proclaimed role of defender of the besieged Sinhalese culture. 120. He introduced the controversial Sinhala-only Act recognizing Sinhala as the only official language of the government. Although partially reversed in 1958, the bill posed a grave concern for the Tamil community, which perceived in it a threat to their language and culture. 121, 122, 123. The Federal Party, FP, launched a movement of non-violent resistance, Satyagraha, against the bill, which prompted Bundaranak to reach an agreement, Bundaranak Chelvanayakam Pact, with SJV Chelvanayakam, leader of the FP, to resolve the looming ethnic conflict. 124. The pact proved ineffective in the face of ongoing protests by opposition and the Buddhist clergy. The bill, together with various government colonization schemes, contributed much towards the political rancor between Sinhalese and Tamil political leaders. 125. Bundaranak was assassinated by an extremist Buddhist monk in 1959. 126. Leaders in 1960. Elizabeth II, Queen of Ceylon Sirimovo Bundaranak. Prime Minister 1960 saw the election of Sirimovo Bundaranak as Ceylon's Prime Minister, and the first time in world history that the heads of both state and government in a country were female. Sirimovo Bundaranak, the widow of Bundaranak, took office as Prime Minister in 1960, and withstood an attempted coup d'etat in 1962. During her second term as Prime Minister, the government instituted socialist economic policies strengthening ties with the Soviet Union and China, while promoting a policy of non-alignment. In 1971, Ceylon experienced a Marxist insurrection, which was quickly suppressed. In 1972, the country became a republic named Sri Lanka, repudiating its dominion status. Prolonged minority grievances and the use of communal emotionalism as an election campaign weapon by both Sinhalese and Tamil leaders abetted a fledgling Tamil militancy in the north during the 1970s. 127. The policy of standardization by the Sirimovo government to rectify disparities created in university enrollment, which was in essence an affirmative action to assist geographically disadvantaged students to obtain tertiary education. 128. Resulted in reducing the proportion of Tamil students at university level and acted as the immediate catalyst for the rise of militancy. 129, 130. The assassination of Jaffna Mayor Alfred Duraiappah in 1975 by the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, LTTE, marked a crisis point. 131, 132. The government of J.R. Jayawardene swept to...
Yes, break. Let's say I start to get tired. Let's charge the camera. The video splits in 30 seconds. So let's just stop the video and charge the camcorder. Like half an hour, 40 minutes or more. Then I can record the rest of the flight, I think. Then I will stop for today. Then I will need to sleep, watch Netflix, Now the power's red.